we are creative with it. Thank you so much.
We didn't get your name.
My name is Mao Patrick Shaka.
Thank you, Mr. Shaka.
Actually, that's not true. AI is great. Yeah. You know, guys, if you ChatGPT, right? When was it released, guys? November. If you're able to see what it's able to do, okay? I am telling you, okay, I just wanted the conversation to get, but no, guys, don't take it for granted. It's able to replace even human agency. That's why there is a big force to put a stop or to halt. And I'm telling you this because we have seen research. I encourage you to be the forefront of creating the data that we use for AI. Otherwise, it will reimagine its own world. Or we will be using it in things that don't matter. Yeah, but there is that potential for sure with those sci-fi movies. I just wanted the conversation to sort of, yeah. But thanks for the point. That's really good.
All right. Very interesting debates happening already, and we're just starting. I told you this is one conversation that just keeps getting interesting. Now that we know what AI is and how it's so far applied in Uganda in different sectors, it is only prudent that we make it come into the context of journalism. And to do that, this lovely afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, she is currently a lecturer at the Department of Journalism and Communication at Makerere University. Her work focuses on print, digital, and multimedia journalism. Dr. Namsoga is currently researching multimedia storytelling for archiving COVID-19 experiences in Uganda under the Archives, Memory, and Method from the Global South Project. She's also exploring multimedia production and use of online teaching and learning. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Dr. Sarah Namsoga Kale.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. After that great introduction by my colleague Daniel, I think that we all understand how AI is being used in Uganda in different sectors. And so I'll focus now on journalism and try and draw examples from Uganda and globally. But first, let me tell you a story. Last November, I interacted with some media workers in Uganda about the state of AI integration in their processes. The conversation with one editor went like this. Me, good morning. Him, good morning, Dr. Sarah. Me, are you guys using artificial intelligence in any way? Him, not yet. Maybe. What's artificial intelligence? I could be mistaken, but I don't see any robot at work here. Technology is all over this place, but I haven't seen AI. To do what exactly? Well, he then referred me to the online editor who confessed, and I quote, "I am clueless." I pointed out a few basic areas to the online editor where they could be using AI already, and that's when his eyes were open. When I was asked to give this talk at this event, I ran back to the online editor to find out if anything had changed since our last conversation. Until now, I've not got a response from him. So, just we are on the same page, let me say this. Specifically for media and journalism, AI could refer to the use of algorithms to analyze data from multiple sources, including scenes from objects, faces, or colors. It could be used to convert speech into text, text into audio, and video, and to identify sentiment. Think about AI tools that transcribe, for example, or that sift through hundreds and hundreds of leaked documents. I'm sure you've read stories on global collaboration scales where they've had to sift through hundreds and hundreds of leaked documents to write the story. Think about AI tools that filter readers' comments and that write stories about routine events like the national budget. In some newsrooms, reports like the weather, like the budget, have now been automated because we know the basic structure and we employ an AI tool to write the story. As we can see, this view of AI in the newsroom or in the media points to the idea of automation, right? And so it might be right to argue that AI is mostly about automation of tasks that were originally carried out by journalists, editors, and other media workers. These tasks encompass the entire news production process, as you can imagine it, and that includes sourcing or reporting, writing the news, editing the news, and publishing the news. Depending on which part of the world you're looking at, the literature suggests that AI is being used to perform tasks such as generating news, or what is also called robot journalism. I think you've encountered that. We also have AI being used for news production. For example, in China, we have an AI news anchor. We've used AI to track breaking news, viral stories, and large volumes of data. So if a story becomes viral on social media, you can then deploy an AI tool to follow and see how far it will go, and then you decide as a media house whether to cover it, go into detail, and report it. We've also used AI for visualizing data. I need to put aside the lecturer side of me and yeah. So if you've been to my class, we've looked at visualizing data. And that means that we break down data so that the audience can understand it easier. Instead of writing, of course you write all the text, but you help with the visuals so that it breaks down for the audience. We've also used AI for automatic sharing of news stories. And this is globally, but in Uganda as well, we do that, as we'll be saying. So, in journalism, there are 3 levels of AI integration in the media houses, depending on the automation of various tasks in the 3 stages of a news production process. And these processes that we look at here are research, production, and dissemination. So these are the 3 levels, and I thought I should point them out so that I kind of put more flesh to what Daniel said. So we have what we call holistic AI appropriation. This is where most of the news production functions have been delegated to AI. So there's very limited journalist input. Then the second level is technological appropriation. As its name suggests, you appropriate technology hardware equipped with AI features that you then use to gather news, edit, and write. But still, you have humans with that putting deep input in that. So you have humans editing and writing. And then we have the third level, which is partial appropriation, where AI is used for specific functions at different levels of a news production process. So here, you decide at which point you want to use your AI tool and then deploy it there. And at this level, there's considerable human and AI interaction. I must say that in most African newsrooms, I think this is the level that we are at, and there are reasons for that. But while you're thinking about whether to implement AI in your production process, it is important to do some homework and find out what needs AI can meet in your organization. As we've already seen, many times it's about automating tasks. So the question then becomes, what tasks do you need or want to automate? The two kind of are different, the need and the want. And the answer to this question will partly depend on your budget. How much are you willing to appropriate to AI? But also the answer will depend on whether you actually need to automate anything. Again, given the budget constraints we have, especially in most African newsrooms. So ask yourself, do I really need this AI tool? Also ask yourself, what problem are you trying to solve? And will AI be the answer? Sometimes you may not need AI tools, actually. You might just need a tool, another more affordable tool that can do what you want to do. Mattia Peretti from London School of Economics Journalism AI project warns, and for the young people, you know this, do not get into the AI space for FOMO. Is FOMO still a thing? Yeah? So don't get into it for FOMO, he warns. In other words, do your homework. Do you really need AI? Must you be using it? Once your media house has done their homework and agreed that they need AI, you then need to come up with a strategy. The communications people will tell you you should never be implementing anything without strategy. Otherwise, you'll go, fishing the whole ocean and catching nothing. So not all AI systems can be implemented the same way. And we can tap into Daniel's work here. He can perhaps tell us at some point how different each project was. So for example, using a machine learning model, which we talked about, to filter the comments you receive from your readers and automatically tag potentially harmful ones would be different from if you wanted to optimize your paywall. The paywall is another thing that most of the media houses are now talking about. We need to make money from our digital content, and so we put up these paywalls. And AI tools can help us to optimize the paywalls. And we shall be seeing examples from Uganda at that, but also elsewhere. So for example, El Pay, a Spanish publication, thought about shutting down their comment section online because they just couldn't control or filter the comments for toxicity. As you might already know, again, thanks to online communication, people say anything, and policing the online space is not an easy thing. And so for this particular Spanish publication, they just wanted to give up because they just couldn't take the toxicity. Fortunately for them, they were approached by the Google News initiative, and I encourage you to familiarize yourself with the Google News initiative, who introduced them to Perspective API, a free tool. I'm underlining free. Again, I keep telling my students, one of the advantages of being a lecturer in the third world is you get to learn about free things. So, so the Google News initiative introduced them to Perspective API, which is a free tool that helps to label comments as toxic. And this tool uses machine learning that has been trained by human-generated comments. So again, you see where the human input comes in. So part of their objective was to train Perspective AI to filter comments in Spanish. Why? Because originally, it was only working with English. And so they needed to teach it to filter comments in Spanish. After a while, this is what they said, and they were happy with the fruits. Quote, "Now, when someone tries to post a toxic comment on our site, will show them a message in real time, suggesting that they make changes or rewrite it so that it will pass our moderation system. Since we put this system in place, the average toxicity of our comments has gone down 7%, and the number of comments has gone up 19%, leading us to suspect that the comments section is a nicer place and one our readers want to engage in. We've also improved the moderation process by sending the more toxic comments to experienced moderators and the less toxic to the less experienced ones. End of quote. So you can see that they were using this AI tool to help filter comments from their readers. Now that is totally different from the Swiss news publisher NZZ that built a flexible paywall using machine learning. So NZZ requires people to register and eventually pay. As most of us are doing here in Uganda, we register. I suspect at some point we'll be asked to pay to access this content. But when readers get these registration and payment messages, and how those messages look varies. So the message is kind of customized to the reader. And this is based on predefined rules that are set up by machine learning. So given my demographic, I'll receive a different message from somebody younger than me or somebody older than me. And so I'll feel like, yeah, this is targeting me. And this is what they said after a while, and I quote, "If we are to be successful in paid content, which I think most of us want to be, we need to individualize the experience with our product and the product itself." Okay? So you make it seem unique to the individual. And we need to automate our marketing approach. Automation comes up. Based on that hypothesis, this approach will increase engagement, retention, and conversion rate. So, for instance, between 5 a.m. and 9 a.m., when people are commuting, they're reading on their smartphones, isn't it? And therefore, they won't want to put in any payment details because you're on the road, you're probably driving, or you're being driven and really you don't want to share your details for everyone to see. So no payment messages are shown during this time, and people can freely access the site. Can you believe that? But all this has been automated using an AI tool. And so it's important to put in place a strategy for you to implement AI in your operations, depending on what you're going to use it for, like we've seen in those two examples. That aside, AI tools are already being used to do the mostly boring and repetitive tasks that as journalists we don't really enjoy doing anyway. Can you think of anything that bores you in the newsroom? So things like transcribing interviews, there are tools for those. Sifting through all those hundreds and hundreds of leaked documents, like I said. Filtering readers' comments. You don't want to be employed to do that. And then writing stories. So I note here that no one got into journalism because they were looking forward to doing some of these things over and over and over again. Most of us dreamt of being creative and changing the world, and I think this won't do it. So a good example of a very reputable publication that has already embraced an AI writing tool is the Wall Street Journal. I think you're all familiar with the Wall Street Journal. It needs no introduction. So, because it's obviously one of the most influential newspapers in the world. And they're using a tool called Narrativa, which uses natural language generation to automate their news. And this is what they have to say. This means that our AI system, Gabrielle, is now generating narratives using data from the biggest markets in the United States and Europe. Text is then, and this is very important, text is then finessed and completed by the editors. who add their analysis of the information. We couldn't be more satisfied with the result. News articles generated by Narrativa are featured on the front page of the American website. So again, we see the input of a human being, at least at this level, the analysis, okay, that you add to the computer-generated story. And then the next question we ask as we think about setting up AI systems. Beyond automation, what other benefits do you stand to gain by setting up and using AI systems in your newsroom? Think about your audiences, and I've hinted on this. Would they perhaps benefit from more targeted advertising or content that you could determine using the analytics? Okay, we've seen that in the case up there, they were able to customize paywall information to each individual. So we see that back here in East Africa, anecdotal evidence suggests that the Nation Media Group in Kenya and the Vision Group in Uganda have integrated AI in their digital operations to varying levels, like we saw the three. Okay, so I'll quickly move on to my last thoughts. So we've seen that with the Nation Media Group and Vision, they've, for example, experimented with augmented reality, which is an immersive technology in which digital elements such as images, sounds, and text are superimposed over real-life scenes. And so when you scan the picture with your smartphone, it really comes to life. And if you're in Uganda and you've used the New Vision digital app, I know that you've experienced that. Okay, so quickly, in Kenya, a study was done which collected data from the BBC Africa and then Radio Africa Group. It found that AI had been used in three main ways: gathering news and generating content. And this they did by identifying topics or issues that are trending online, and then automating the use and recreation of one story for different languages and contexts. And I think that for me, this is important for a multilingual operation like the BBC Africa, because then you wouldn't require writers and designers to produce new templates for the stories. So there's auto-translation, auto-writing, and auto-design. They also used AI to disseminate news and to enhance online audiences' engagement and interaction with the content. And this they did by automating sharing and scheduling of content on social media platforms. So you use AI tools to schedule which story goes up at which point. Okay, as I wrap up, I would like to share some of my observations about AI and journalism. One is that it has eased content creation across languages through automation of the translation function. This has eased the recreation of one story for different languages and contexts. Writers and designers do not need multiple templates now. Furthermore, it has made us think about the need to grow our indigenous language databases. Daniel talked about data. If we don't feed these systems data, then our languages will not be able to work as well as they should in these systems. The third is that AI also brings to the fore the necessity of the human brain, even in automated processes. AI is as good as the data used to train it. So if you know the saying, garbage in, garbage out. So AI can make mistakes. ChatGPT at some point said that the Speaker of Parliament belonged to the opposition NUP. So AI can make mistakes, and the human can correct that. Timothy Kalyegira pointed out, I'm sure as most of you followed when he was talking about AI and all this, he said, now more than ever, the role of an editor will move from being important to being absolutely crucial. Okay, so ethical issues like plagiarism have been brought to the fore, fact-checking for accuracy, as well as ensuring that we stick to other journalistic principles such as objectivity, verification, balance, and fairness should be accorded center stage in the media houses and newsrooms. I'll end by saying that in a study carried out in Kenya, they projected that human and automated journalism will become closely integrated in the future and recommended that newsrooms in Kenya prepare to embrace AI by laying the foundation for its adoption. I want to stretch this to the journalism schools in East Africa and perhaps the world over. Like the newsrooms, they should update their curricula to reflect these new digital technologies that are here to stay. For example, and I know this is very controversial, but I'll put it out there. Is it time that journalism schools added ChatGPT to their curricula so that students can see for themselves in a formal setting the benefits and downside of such a technology and how to get the best out of it? Is it time for that? Let me conclude by saying that digital technology is improving all the time, and it is making work easier in most cases. However, it is important that even as we interact with this technology, we do not lose our values as journalists and as individuals. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sarah. A big round of applause for Dr. Sarah. Thank you. Sorry. Now, if those are not conversation triggers, I don't know what what they would be. Are you triggered? I think I'm triggered. First, by show of hands, if your idea of AI has changed. I think some of us entered here with conceptions. Have they been corrected? Yeah? I think so. I think so as well. First and foremost, I would love to appreciate Dr. Sarah for putting that into the context of journalists. And I know we had questions when we entered in here. It's always common that what you don't know threatens you, right? You always feel threatened. By this submission, I think we have a new friend called AI. And ChatGPT, I don't think we have to hide anymore that our assignments were done by ChatGPT. Can I now go to Dr. Sarah and say, honestly, 50% of my assignment, I incorporated AI? Yeah. Or she'll be able to tell, we're finished. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll take 2 questions only. 2 questions. And I'll go with the fidelity questions quickly. Anyone? I think we have understood AI to the point where we have no questions. Is this a good thing? Have you applied AI with your answers as well? Okay. I don't think we have any questions, but of course, just to remind you, we have our online audiences. Yes. Benson, hi. And of course, Stefan, who are joining us online. They'll be making the submissions in just a short while. We will now. Yes, there's a question. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Since you want to ask questions, while I'm still here, I'd like to ask you questions, maybe one at a time. I just wanted to know, from your perspective, where do you think this marriage of AI and journalism, if I can hear 2 answers, I think for me, my job here. Oh, now we have hands. Okay.
Triggered.
Yeah.
Triggered much.
Right there, yeah. I'd like to, know, because we're here at the Media Challenge Initiative. Am I correct? So challenge us.
Thank you very much. I go by the name is Kevin Kasoma, a journalist student, farmer, somehow.
Go for it.
And anyway, looking at artificial intelligence in the journalistic perspective, personally, I feel like I've been attached to ChatGPT in a good way from when it was launched to ChatGPT 4 on March 14th. And I feel like AI in itself is a very, very important tool, but without the right sensitization on how people can use AI to get the best of it, it is not really a very good tool. So she's mentioned quite a number of tools that are used in China, the AI news anchor. You're looking at AI that is used to filter very many things. And marrying this with the journalistic elements is with sensitization, that we as journalists, if we better understand these things, then when we are giving out our information, then it can be more accurate, it can be more, less leaned on the disadvantages of artificial intelligence, and actually showing people that artificial intelligence is a very important tool that can improve the journalistic element. So I feel like it's just the sensitization and people actually getting to understand the power of these various artificial intelligences, because for say, maybe in my colleagues, they know only ChatGPT, but there are very many, artificial intelligences. There's Notion and all those things that can write articles, that can write proposals, that can write for you very many things. But if you're putting in the wrong commands, just with ChatGPT itself, it will give you something else, because what you're giving it is what it's like she mentioned, garbage in, garbage out. So we as journalists, if we know these things and actually how to incorporate these things in our works, then I feel the marriage will be one that won't lead to a divorce.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you
I
so
think
much,
there was
Daniel.
one other
We'll keep that in the
Please.
parking lot. We
But
have
thank
the
you.
online audiences. Thank you so much, Daniel. I think it's safe to say, for this marriage, I would recommend a prenup. I would recommend a prenup. We don't know where we're going or what we're both bringing, and we don't know at what point we want to sign out. Say, you know what, it's been a lovely ride, but see you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my absolute honor to invite the next person who will be our moderator for the next session, which will be the round table discussion. Now, he's an investigative journalist. ChatGPT, go slow. He's an investigative journalist in East Africa, currently working with the Nation Media Group as the head of current affairs programming. He's the show host of the Fourth Estate program. He's the deputy director at African Institute of Investigative Journalism, which is a non-profit home for investigative reporting in Uganda. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me in welcoming Mr. Raymond Mujini.
This is a crisis with artificial intelligence. So I am also an editor and I'm not very impressionable, which means that I have tougher questions for you guys today. Thank you so much. I was asked to sit here, so I'll not stand there, and I think that's a great improvement from the job. I'll ask our team to put our guests up on the screen and invite my other guests in the room to come to the front. Mr. Sam Agona, please, if you'd make your way to the front. Mr. Clifford Mugerwa, seen Mr. Paul Mukasa. If you could also, do you want to come and sit on the orange seats so that the AI writes you properly into the panelists? Anywhere, anywhere. Okay, Lizel Mwaya. Oh, thank you. Please occupy the orange seats too. And Christine, I don't know if Christine is here yet, but if she's not here, we'll start without her, and we'll try and get to her. We have two people joining us online. I know that we have Mr. Benson Githaiga. Benson is in Nairobi, but he'll be appearing on our screens rather shortly. And then we have Mr. Stephen Lydell, who is joining us from Berlin, I presume. So I know they're on the Zoom call already, so if they can be put up on the screen, then we can see them. But maybe as we get them, a minute each as you guys introduce each other or introduce what you do so that our audience can know what you are. Guys, this is a fishbowl, so you can ask questions at any point in this conversation. So it's not those Daniel things earlier in the day where they lecture you and then give you time for questions. Don't worry, you can even ask questions now and say, I didn't get your name clearly. Thank you.
Thank you, Raymond. Hello, everyone. My name is Zeo Mowaya. I am the head of content for Pulse Uganda. Pulse Uganda is an online media house and a content hub.
Thank you, moderator. My name is Paul Mukasa. I work with the Uganda Communications Commission, the regulator of communication services in Uganda. These include telecom, radio, TV, and online media. I'm the manager, multimedia and content regulation in UCC. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Paul. Paul is in charge of closing down your account, so please treat him kindly today.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sam Agona. I'm a technical officer with Next Media Services. My interest is in the hard side of things. Okay? What you say right behind you there is what I do, but I'm interested heavily in software systems, solutions that bring changes in day-to-day life. I came with my friend Francis. We do research together. He's somewhere right behind there. We always do things together. Thank you.
Great. Clifford.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Clifford Mugerwa, and I am the head of digital marketing at Next Media. I love technology.
Great. I don't know if our technology team has united us with our guests. Great. All right.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Hear me?
Yes, we hear you perfectly well. We're at the point where we introduce ourselves, so you've arrived exactly on time to introduce yourself, Benson.
My name is Benson Gitaika. I work at the Aga Khan Media Innovation Center as the executive officer and the community manager. My background is in innovation and mostly helping startups. I also happen to be a technologist. I'm happy to see a lot of familiar faces in organizations that we support here as Aga Khan and as DWA. I'm going to give it up to Stefan now.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you, Benson, and I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we do hear you.
Yeah, hi, everybody. Greetings to Kampala from Berlin, the very rainy day today in Germany, so I would like to be there in Kampala. So I'm Steffen Leidl. I work for Deutsche Welle Academy as a senior consultant on innovation and media viability. In my former life, I worked for many years as a reporter covering international politics and working as a multimedia reporter. And now I'm really looking forward to this discussion about AI and journalism.
Thank you so much. To put your heart at peace, Stefan, it's raining in Kampala too, so we share the weather at least.
But I'm sure it's warmer than here. We have 5 degrees Celsius.
All right. Benson, I want to start with you before the Ugandan internet does the classic tale it does. There's been a very important conversation happening in the room around the use of artificial intelligence in journalism. And because I'm an editor and I'm not impressionable, one of the key questions that we have around artificial intelligence is the ethics questions around building of the artificial intelligence. Have you encountered such a conversation? How do you go about it? How do you address the ethics of AI and journalism ethics? Are they at conflict, if I could start with that question?
I would say there's some level of conflict at the moment when it comes to ethics in AI. And there's been like maybe a 10-year conversation around, how should we build an AI and what should it be able to do and not do? At the end of it, I'd like to keep things simple. People build the AI, and people ultimately are the gatekeepers of evil and good. So whatever we're going to build needs to be done with the interest of human beings as the primary gatekeepers of the ethical side of it.
All right. Could you address the major ethical concern around plagiarism? Because a lot of the content that comes out of, for example, ChatGPT isn't actually plagiarized content, but it's curated content that's been prepared by other people elsewhere. Would you say that that's something that journalists and journalists in newsrooms should take up on? Should we see more ChatGPT generated stories making their way through editors' timelines and onto the front pages?
Great question. There's something that has been trending in the last maybe 1.5 years when it comes to AI, and this is the truth bias when it comes to AI. And let's say a truth deficit even more accurately. As more AI content is hitting our eyes and our cell phones, our computers, etc., the trust is reducing. And this is bringing in a new era of people who are advocating for AI content to be watermarked. When it comes to things like plagiarism, it's such a big deal now that sites like Turnitin have to reinvent their wheel a little bit. As that is happening, students are becoming more smarter, so they'll do ChatGPT, and then they'll run this.
And if I could bring you into the conversation around trust. A very core component of journalism really is trust. So many people trust that what we do is for the truth. So many people trust that what we do is to hold people in power to account. And sometimes the people that we need to hold to account are the AIs themselves. So how do we incorporate trust? How do we bring back trust into journalism that's AI powered?
It's really interesting if you play around with ChatGPT. You can summarize texts, you can translate, you can do really interesting stuff, as some people highlighted. So you can make the life of journalists easier. But you really need to understand one thing about these large language models. What kind of text are they creating? And there is a discussion around ChatGPT as a bullshit generator. And I'm not sure if you are familiar with this concept in philosophy, the bullshit. Bullshit was coined by a philosopher, Harry Frankfurt, and he said bullshit is speech intended to persuade without regard for truth. even the liar cares about the truth, but not the bullshitter. And what the ChatGPT creates is text that is always really convincing. It sounds good. Like when you put any prompt in it, it's like, wow, this is a machine and it's creating. But this ChatGPT doesn't have inner model of truth. It doesn't have the Wikipedia inside. I mean, it learned patterns of language. And what it learned, for example, about Wikipedia or something like this is that all the articles have a kind of pattern that is repetitive, and it can reproduce it. So even if you ask it, okay, can you write a poem like in a Shakespeare style, ChatGPT will do it, but the content, you never know, it's not reliable at all. And we have seen, for example, if you ask some questions to ChatGPT, it makes up sources. And Guardian has a problem because the Guardian, the English newspaper, appears in many ChatGPT texts, quoting articles written by the Guardian, but they never have been written. You also can try it out on your own. The other day I asked ChatGPT, okay, create a list about literature written about ecosystems and journalism. And then ChatGPT again said, yeah, no problem. I create a list for you. And he created a perfect list of literature. But what came out, it was nonsense. They do not exist. They appear that they exist, but they do not. And this has a lot of implications for trust in journalism, because when I listen to our colleagues, and we use, of course, many AI applications already, but we are very hesitant with the new large language models, because, I mean, you can't trust them. You can't be sure that if you ask ChatGPT to sum up something, you don't know what are the criteria why ChatGPT is giving you this summary and not another. So there is a lot of ethical stuff we need to clarify first as journalists to not even lose more trust. And there's always this example of CNET. I'm not sure if you heard about them. They are writing articles about tech stuff, and they created articles automatically by ChatGPT. And the idea was an editor is looking at the article, correcting it, and then they are publishing it. What happened is they created articles, but the editors were kind of tired looking at the articles, and what came out, they were all full of errors and false information. So I think, and coming back to your question about creating trust, the first thing what we have to do is to really learn about how AI works, and many journalists do not really know, and they talk all the time about intelligence, and I think intelligence is really misleading. We are talking about automation and machine learning, so the machine can't really think. And when we listen to some people, oh, they are creative. They are not creative. They are just reproducing existing patterns, and you will know it when you look at the text. When you have read different texts about, created by ChatGPT, you will notice they are not that creative that you thought. They are always kind of similar. And so we have to explain to the public what is the value of AI, but also what are the risks. And I mean, there are many risks we are facing, because this data that ChatGPT is using, we do not know what kind of data it was gathering. I mean, and we had this scandal in Africa, actually in Kenya. There was an investigation done by the Time magazine that OpenAI, the company, contracted Sama, a corporation, people who were training the ChatGPT with toxic language so that ChatGPT can recognize this kind of language. And this was done by a company with very badly paid workers. So we have also some developments here that are not really great, and we have to monitor it.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Stephen. And I want us to first park the journalism conversation, particularly around the ethics in the writing and the creating of the journalists, and come to Clifford on the other side of the business, which is actually the business of selling journalism. I know you're my competitor, so I won't speak numbers. But as early as 2020, many of us started considering a paywall option. for our journalism. And I remember in our newsroom, the very immediate thing is we discovered we don't know a thing about the people that come to read our journalism. And there was an attempt at first to use human intelligence to understand our readers. We discovered very quickly that that wasn't going to work. And artificial intelligence told us about all the 1 million readers of the Daily Monitor every day in 5 minutes. And that's been important for us to discover who do we give what advert, how long do they see it. We now know in this room, if you read the Daily Monitor, we know where you stop reading, we know how much time you spend reading us, we know which article you go to after reading us. We also know that many of our readers read us and come to you guys. We're angry about it, but we've learned all of this from AI. From the value best of AI, that AI can help us build markets, AI can help us understand consumers, AI can help us write to the interests of those consumers. What would you take beyond that?
Well, I'll start by saying, yes, as you've highlighted, that we've been on this journey with AI for a while, not in its current form, but it's been implemented in small bits and pieces of what we've been using. For a while, we've been using tools to study our consumers, our customers. We've been identifying what they like, how long they spend on our sites, things like that. And recently, we were having a conversation on our Twitter space. That's usually on every Friday. And on that Twitter space, someone said that this, at the early 2000s and late 90s, it was the information age that came in. Right now, where we are, it's the age of curation. How well can you curate content that I'm willing to consume as is? I'm no longer looking forward to understanding these 5 articles and breaking them down so that I know which house to live in. If you curate this content very well for me, I will visit you more often. And that's the level we are now playing with these AI tools. So before then, it was insights that we were translating into, okay, now we understand our people, let's manually do this. Let's manually create this content that, oh, we see they liked this more, they watched this longer. Now AI is adding in sentiment and is adding in relatability. That's how we know what they watch over on your platforms and what they watch over on our platforms. And we know we have a shared audience. So that's the current discussion when it comes to marketing. So yes, it's not more around authenticity, but rather more around creativity. Creativity, yes. And then lastly, around the paywall issue, this is actually a thought that came in when I walked into the room. I was wondering, yesterday I was in a class and I was teaching and I was introducing them to ChatGPT, and they told me that's cheating. You know, they told me that's being very lazy. And I was thinking to myself, if I was to charge for this article, will I put AI in the byline as well? Or, would we split fees with AI? Like, yeah, 50% me, 50% AI. So it's an interesting journey that we're going to continue having when it comes to discussion of the content we create for pay. But my belief is, as we use these tools, just like we used computers when they had first arrived and other softwares, it's upon us to know how to use these tools to get what we need out of them and to ensure that the right thing is done.
All right, Lizel, if you could get the microphone too. And this is really for online. A lot of the competition for audiences is really online. And that competition, of course, everyone is learning through AI how to beat their competitor. You've heard Clifford telling us how he beats us and how we beat them. And I've noticed the same with Pulse. Do you use AI in understanding your audiences? Are you using that AI in writing content? I noticed with Pulse, very particularly, you have very short frame articles which target the 1835s who are in this room. Was that a decision you arrived at from AI?
Yes, that's kind of a decision that we arrived at from AI. So AI has helped us study our audiences. One big insight is we've had to partition our audiences. So from the insights that we have received, we know that currently people are watching content more than they're actually reading. So it doesn't drive us to pay attention to just one of the audiences. We are also very big on video content. We have had to produce a lot of even our news stories in the form of video in order to serve this bit of the audience. But then we've also had to produce stories that are shorter and more captivating in order to make sure that when people visit pulse.ug, once a person opens a story, they don't have to get it's like getting scared because you're seeing a very long story. No, 250 words, 300 words, in under 5 minutes. You've read a story, you've got the content, and you're out of there. So that's an insight that we've arrived at through AI.
That's a very interesting insight, and I want to come to you because this is a conversation that was happening in NBS when I was still there. We quickly realized then also, I think it was also a factor of AI, that younger audiences want to watch shorter videos, but in high quality. Does that have an impact on how newsrooms have to structure their budgets, the kind of equipment they have to buy? Like, for example, now I can tell you I'm not scared by those big cameras. If I have this phone, I create much more engaging content for young people here. The old guys would love that, but this is really the thing. Has that impacted technology decisions and purchase decisions?
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, it has impacted. And also, it has affected what manufacturers produce. There's been a very high liberalization of content creation. Anyone here is a content creator. You can do anything. So equipment like that is really expensive, very expensive, and the budgets are high. Now, you're going to find many media houses are pushing people out. Many media houses are content creating institutions, which are probably not even media houses, to use mobile devices. Mobile devices, how do you have a tool which you take a video, okay? You transcribe it, you probably even edit it on your phone, and then you transmit. It's definitely going to be cheaper than what that is, by a very huge margin. So yes, the aspect of having more of watch than read has impacted heavily on budgets and the nature of equipment that is purchased in these different institutions that create data, even that create content rather. And the democratization of creating content has led to more content creation outside institutions. There are many people whom you would see 2 years ago were working for a TV station, a radio station, Daily Monitor most likely. Now they have moved out. They're doing their own things. There are tools outside there that can, you can have a script, go online, have it voiced for you, then go online again to another platform, another tool, and then have an animation, and you upload to YouTube, and you're making money while lying on your bed in your bedroom. So that has democratized all this content creation, and also it has made such people go for the smallest devices ever possible that can deliver the quality that they would like to have.
Paul, you must be listening to this conversation and saying, how do I catch all these guys? Previously, as a regulator, he used to come at us. I'm very happy to report that now we are very many. The content creators are many. And now, the content creators are even using a thing called AI to create their content. From a regulatory standpoint at UCC, what are you learning about AI? And how are you using what you're learning to regulate the industry?
Okay, thank you very much, moderator. That's a very good question. AI is simply a tool made by man to improve his welfare, to improve his services. And as a regulator, we can also use AI to improve regulation of the media. For example, we have what we call content standards, which have to be followed by the media. We can use AI, like Daniel was telling me that he can teach the computer. One of the standards is all programming must conform to public moralities. So if UCC got Herbert here and develops a tool teaching the computer what is public morality, then UCC's work would be simplified. And it will not take away our jobs, because you are the people who knows the standards and we review these standards periodically. So there's no fear that AI will take away our jobs. Like you people in the newsrooms, you have a function called gatekeeping to make sure that what the content which goes out is appropriate. You can develop a tool so that the AI does the gatekeeping for you. Probably it does not eliminate your job as an editor. Thank you. I think I can stop there.
Yeah, but Paul, if I could stay with you, there's an issue that Stephen raised around ethics, and all of us in the industry submit to you our editorial guidelines, which demand a level of ethics from us. One of the contentions, particularly from the media world, is that if you're an actual media owner, AI makes the running of the news operation way cheaper. That means you can kick out as many journalists in the fact-checking areas and use ChatGPT to do that. But it creates a very ethical concern when you're doing something like that. Are we going to see UCC asking us, for example, to put a byline that this article has been written by Raymond Mujuni and ChatGPT?
That is a difficult one. Yeah, but I think you repeat the question as I get there.
Okay, I will come, but the thing is that we look to you for a lot of ethical guidance, particularly as an industry. You are a regulator.
Yes.
You determine what qualifies as ethics and not. When for us we're in the business, oftentimes we overlook some things as ethics. You've mentioned something as simple as public morality. The way you define public morality, sometimes I watch, let me not talk about our content, let me talk about our competitors' content.
Yes.
Sometimes I watch our competitors' content, and I'm like, how is UCC not catching these ones? And that's the thing that I'd want to know with an AI kind of system where people get content from artificial intelligence generated well and put onto the front pages. Will UCC insist on ethical standards for that? Will you insist, for example, that we declare any time in the journalism that we've used AI, that it must be reflected so that the reader who you represent catches it?
Okay, I think AI is, like I said, is a tool. And US story, whether generated by AI, it has to conform to the ethical standards. For example, if you use AI, a tool, they have given you an assignment, you go to what you call ChatGPT, and then you get 100. That is unethical. So at the back of our minds, I think ethics is fundamental. What is right and what is wrong? A calculator is a good tool, but if you are in a multiplication exam, you go with a calculator, 40 times 40, and you get 100%. I think that's unethical. So AI is a tool, can improve our services, but the human being is on top of it, is the master.
All right, thank you, Paul. I don't know if Ben is still with us. I'm going to come to the questions. If Benson is still with us and someone can project him on the screen. I wanted to ask you a very difficult question I'm sure that Stephen wouldn't want to hear. A lot of machine learning and artificial intelligence is still pretty much white-driven. When I speak to Siri, for example, on the phone and ask Siri some things concerning Kampala, the results sometimes are very, I don't know how to say it, they're very white. How do we overcome this dilemma that a lot of artificial intelligence working in African newsrooms is still pretty much white-driven? A lot of the machine learning, again, is pretty much white-driven. There's very little money coming to fundraising into research institutes like the kind that Daniel is doing to create an African machine learning system. So how do we overcome that?
I think the first thing is that there is a lot of push already from AIs or AI creators in Africa to create things that are sensitive to the continent. Not just in terms of our dark skin, but in other fairer regions, like in the north that have fairer skin. What you're alluding to is what we call label bias, where, for example, if I try and unlock my phone, I think a lot of you can remember when iPhones first got out their facial recognition. What would happen is you try and unlock, as a black person, but if you give your cousin, they'll probably be able to unlock it too, because it couldn't tell the difference between, you know, your face and my face, which was a huge embarrassment and an oversight for whoever was in charge of, you know, the testing of the AI that recognizes your face. When it comes to label bias, there's a lot of push now to ensure that if it's a lion, the lion is seen from every angle and not just front-facing. So initially, the AI could only recognize if it was front-facing. To go on to your specific question is, the best thing they could do is before the pre-learning stage. That's the stage where just after they sort of gather the data and they start to model the AI. That's the most crucial space that we have to either relearn, meaning that they can go back and reteach the AI, or we can always have someone of color in the room to always voice that. Majority of the time, you'll find the tools are being built by people who really are not us, so they do not think of you and I. They think about themselves faster. And this is not just in AI, it's also in simple things like cameras that will see a white person or will portray a white person a certain way compared to my skin tone. Maybe that's where, you know, fights like Canon and Nikon come into play. But the place that you can catch it is the pre-learning stage, and you can still go back when you are reteaching the AI to be more sensitive to content that is either audially black or visually black.
All right, thank you, Benson. I don't know if Stephen is still online too.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, I'd also wanted you to respond to a lot of young people in Africa would be involved in the processes around building AIs, but that would require some form of funding, some form of structured funding, specifically for representation. Is that something that DW Academy is looking into? Is that something that you proactively are putting your minds to?
Yeah, yes, I mean, this is a big topic, and it's not a question only about white and black, it's more also this question about power and what kind of industry is emerging now on generative AI, for example. And if you look at OpenAI, they started as an NGO, and now they are a multi-billion-dollar company. And for example, to train a GPT AI, it costs around $40 million. So this makes clear who is making the game here. And Deutschland probably not, because we do not have this kind of money. But what I want to say is, again, we have only a few companies, global companies, controlling this market and determining how this new technology is built, right? And this brings a lot of questions. And you know, in Europe, we are very much friends of this regulation and data security issues and all this. And the European Union is trying to regulate the market also of innovation of artificial intelligence, because they are saying it's really difficult if we only have a few companies in the world who can afford all this, and then leaving alone regions like Africa, Asia, other regions in the world, because they are interested in their own markets, of course, right? So I think we need advocacy in this space. We really need to create awareness, especially when it comes also to building AI for native languages. I mean, it's all very English-based and all this, but we have a lot of languages. But the question is, who has the right to use this open data floating around in the internet? Because what we see now at the moment, ChatGPT is just using all the data available on the web. But now, when it comes to GPT-4, for example, they put a paywall. So they use all the data without asking anybody. But when they bring the application on the market, of course, they create a paywall because they want to earn money. And so the question even is, copyright. Getty Images, I'm not sure if you have heard about this. Getty Images said, okay, we are going to put accuse OpenAI of violating copyright because they are just taking all the pictures on the web and using it to train their language model. And this can not be true, no? I mean, they have to make it transparent and all this. And so there we have a lot of big issues we need to talk about. Who has the data, who owns data, and what kind of data is be used for building this kind of application.
All right, thank you, Stefan. I'm going to open us up to questions, but before we go to the questions, maybe Lizel, if I could come to you for a question that would apply to the students in here. When you're making hiring decisions now, knowing what AI can do, what do you want a young journalist to know about AI before you can hire them?
Okay, thank you. For starters, a young journalist now needs to look at AI as an opportunity to collaborate, rather than looking at AI as a threat. AI is not here to take your jobs or anything. I mean, I'm not saying it's not going to happen in the future, but we are way behind right now. There's a lot that needs to be done. So right now, AI is a very good tool for collaboration. AI is feeding us with data that we can use. It is also helping us with our content creation, audience engagement. It's giving us a lot of insights that guide everything that we are doing in a media house right now. So for the young journalists in here, it's very important to have the mind to want to explore AI as a tool. AI has a lot of its pros, but it also has some limitations, especially with the local content. That data sets are not yet very well fed. So when it comes to local content, there's a lot that on our end, we need to produce all of this content and ensure that the AI tools are fed.
All right, thank you.
Can I just?
Yes, please.
Okay, on top of what she says, I think before hiring, it's important to know that someone understands the basic of journalistic standards. If someone knows that, whatever they get from AI, they'll be able to judge that, okay, this is worth putting out or not worth it. You must understand what the regulator puts up, okay? There are very many dynamics in our country here, you know? Many dynamics that AI might be positively biased towards, yet locally it just doesn't fly. And you won't put it on the pages. You put it on the pages tomorrow, you'll not be in the newsroom. Then it's important to get someone who is up to date, who actually knows what's happening. I did a couple of searches yesterday for things I know personally, and the answers I got from AI were trash. Okay? So if you're not up to date, AI will lie to you and you will lie to other people. And, you know, they'll throw you out. And also, if you can give me just 1 second on what you asked the colleague from UCC. I think there are 3 powerful stakeholders in content creation. There is the content creator, there is the entity in which they are using the content, there is the regulator, and importantly, the reader, the viewer, or the consumer of the content. I think that we're having an upsurge of the readers and the viewers. They're becoming more and more better each day. They're learning every other day that at one point, if you are a lazy reporter or a lazy content creator who will just run a query through Google Bard, through ChatGPT and just get and throw at them, at one point they'll get you. And they'll learn this person is not worth it. So the market will shun you. So it's important that a young journalist or a young content creator understands the platform and knows how to paraphrase content, knows how to creatively interact with this content to make it something new to someone that will keep the attention on that content up to the end.
All right, thank you. So I think questions, guys. I think we'll start at the back. I don't know who I can employ to move the microphone around for me. Guys, I need an AI to move the microphone, if possible. Right there.
Mine is not a question as such. I just wanted to add on what Sam has just said. ChatGPT is, like most of the speakers have said, it's just a tool. If I take you back, we used to have libraries, and newsroom used to, of course, go and refer to the libraries. After libraries, we came to search engines. There Bing came in, Google came in, Yahoo, and still, journalists used to go and review, go back and check with Google, and then they got some content in there and used it for their articles. The same applies to ChatGPT. We shouldn't take whatever ChatGPT gives us as gospel truth. We have to put in time and modify whatever we're trying to put out for our audience to read and understand. So my point here is, let us not just carry everything that we get and put it there. Let us put in time and put in our articles right. Secondly, when I come to Clifford, submitted some time back, he mentioned that most of the AI tools that we are using, by the way, my name is Francis, sorry.
Very well done.
I'm the head of innovations Next Media Services. I work closely with Sam and Clifford. So he mentioned that we have been using AI from way back. Mostly the SEO tools that we've been using, that I mentioned, Google Analytics. The way we were using them was by just getting insights. Right now, Google can tell you who your target audience is. Who is that person you're looking at? So I just wanted to highlight that AI has not come now. It has been there, but I don't know why it has been blown at this point, because it's a point of discussion everywhere and people are scared. I also want Mr. Moderator to inform the people that these tools are just tools. They are not taking away anything. Like
that is exactly the question I want to ask you about them just being tools. And I want to ask you this question with all honesty. We used to think that Google AdSense was just a tool. Today, it influences our writing decisions. If Spice Diana abuses Master Blaster, and you write a story about it, it will spike up because Spice Diana has a lot of people keep clicking. And that's determined the way that young journalists approach journalism. 10 years down the road from Google AdSense, now we have a lot more journalists and audiences interested in entertainment reporting and interested in the sleaze of entertainment reporting. So it looked like a tool, but it's now a curator for society. So what's to stop us from worrying about ChatGPT as a tool for how it will curate the way the newsroom looks like 10 years from now?
My submission to that would be, when I look at Google Ads and Google AdSense, how they work, and how they have actually improved, the positive side of it, how they have actually improved the newsroom and these bloggers. It has actually pulled out the content and put it in the right. Hello? Okay.
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Perfectly well, I can guarantee you.
Google AdSense has actually done it right for us, that it has the capacity to let us know what exactly our audience wants. For example, if you give a story, an example of a story of Spice Diana and maybe Master Blaster, because most of our readers and the people on the internet are young people, and that is the kind of content they are interested in, definitely, to me, I would say if Google Ads has done that for me as a journalist and has given me a point of focus, I would appreciate and say, this is actually helping me. It's to my benefit that I know what exact to write, and I know who to target at this point. Secondly, we all write to achieve something, inform, transform, but also to earn from what we are putting out there. It's very unfortunate that you're writing your articles and you have no one to read them. Definitely, you'll have no advertisers. So I think that's a good thing from my own perspective.
All right. Silva, right there as a question.
Thanks, Raymond. My name is Silva Kayondo. I'm a lawyer. I was first in a newsroom before I went into law. So, two questions to UCC. The first is the aspect of accountability that Raymond was trying to use. When Sam mentioned of the critical stakeholders, he forgot courts and the lawyers. Like it or not, we will have the last say on this because we determine who wins, we determine who loses. And for me, the bigger question here around accountability is we've seen like laws like around maybe defamation, it's to the person. I do not know why isn't, say, UCC issuing all these regulatory toolkits. If a defamation issue arose right now and a Ugandan editor pleads that they used AI and things like that, it may not fly because the information with UCC at the time of application for that license is so and so is the editor, this and this is the news editor, this and this, and those are the people who will be held accountable for all decisions that are AI. So for me, I anticipated that by now maybe UCC should have issued a regulatory sort of position paper on artificial intelligence, broadcasting or media, because what you're doing, you're even exposing us to liability. When like Google, I mean, me, I advise, I'm the lawyer for Facebook, for Uber, for Google, all those companies are under my docket. But if right now a guy asks you, we have to scrape around, look at the content regulations, look at this, but you'll not find any specific, say, provision around AI and things like that. So we are advising off the cuff. We are saying, oh, in South Africa it was this, in Kenya it was this, in Burundi they are thinking this. Most likely Uganda will benchmark on this and this in the region, which I do not think is the best way to advise. And maybe the second point I could talk about is, when we talk of the discussion around local content here, the eye is lost on the value that's within the African economy. We all want to mimic and parrot whites and things like that. But you'll have like a certain program, like on VOT, that Reverend Richard Baguma program, whatever, is a UNESCO heritage accredited program. Together with that comes associated intellectual property rights that are in the form of traditional knowledge, because we are an oral society. So during COVID I saw, and which I felt was a big proposal, where media owners and aggregators here wanted to push all these big tech companies, which will include big AI with time, around the aspect of benefit or revenue sharing for that aggregated content. What has UCC done since that conversation came up about 2 years ago up to now? Do we have any specific updates about it? We've seen Sweden, Australia, etc. implementing that, and it appears to be working. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Paul, I hope you've written. You want to respond now? Okay, give it a go.
Okay, thank you very much. About setting regulations for AI, I don't think it is important because we look at the product. Content is judged when it is published, when it is broadcast. That's when it is valid for us. We are not interested in what you do in the kitchen, whether you use the AI, as long as the story conforms to the standards. So I don't see why we should interest ourselves in the tools you use. Today it is AI, tomorrow it will be more sophisticated technology. But we are looking at the product. Is your content appropriate? What value does it have to the consumers, to the viewers?
Okay, I think I'll give you just a minute to get back, and then we will have other questions. Is the microphone still with you?
I think I can project from here, because that's the attaching liability as a regulator. You're going to say you're going to wait for that. Online harm, the psychological effect of it even happens before the product comes out. Raymond will tell you, if a manipulation event, for instance, is happening, it can even happen pre-deployment, and what you get is actually that. So for me, I think that should also interest us in about the whole machination around. Otherwise, you wouldn't be having all these maybe computer misuse offenses, just saying maybe you've annoyed a person. So that's the thing. So there are those subjective elements to me which I feel are equally important in the discussion. What devices have been used? You're the regulator of devices, for instance. What process has been used into that? What software has been used? Are you also interested in that aspect, or you just want to look at the product? Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, if I could do...
Yes, I was going to suggest...
One sentence.
Okay, please.
That if people have been killed, do we mind which technology has killed, whether spears or whatever? Or poison? The mere fact, we look at the killing, and that's what we...
Okay, Paul, I'm going to ask you to structure some money in UCC and hire Silva and myself as consultants, because it's very important. I don't know where the microphone is. Okay,
hello,
ask your question and then we'll go to the lady.
Just brief before I ask the question. So, yesterday, my friend asked me, would you use rocks to make fire? And I told him no. If I wanted to eat, maybe for food and all that, there is gas and all that. So I've been reading on the internet. It says that journalism, the definition of journalism is the activity or profession of writing for newspapers, magazines, websites, or preparing news to be broadcast. So my question to all of you is, are you okay feeding the beast that is taking your job, because that's what you're describing? I'm not sure, but I've been listening to the discussion closely, and everyone is seeming not to talk about that. The fact that this could be the end of this era of journalism being in the human hands.
I will leave that to Benson. I hope Benson has taken note of that. I need the microphone to move to this side, and then we'll come to Daniel thereafter.
I'm sorry, could he repeat the question?
Are we okay feeding the beast that's taking away our jobs? I don't know if you can describe it as a beast, but yes, we'll get back to you, and you'll answer that. So there's still some questions here.
Thank you, Shanita Namonge, and just to supplement on what he said, all of you are sharing us in this room that this AI is not, it's just a tool. But there are many young talents that are aspiring, not only journalism, but other careers. Don't you think our skills we are trying to polish and find who we are being put at risk?
Oh, great, thank you. I have an answer, but I'll leave it for the panelists. Yes.
Thank you. My name is Hannah Arinatwe. Thank you so much for the conversation. It's interesting to hear how these different big companies are using AI. But my question goes to somebody that is an individual content creator or maybe a mojo journalist. How affordable is credible AI for one individual to use? I'm not talking about the free Google AI that you just type in and it gives you vague responses. I'm talking about credible AI. How affordable is it for somebody that is not in such an institution to use? Thank you.
I think I'll give that to Clifford. Do we want to respond? Benson, maybe you'll start with responding and then we'll come back into the room. Just hold on, we'll come back. Yes, yes, Benson.
Okay, is it okay to keep feeding this beast? I think the first thing you have to realize, the world right now has 5.16 billion people on the net, meaning that the world is becoming more and more digital. And when you even think about just the virtual metaverse investment in the last maybe 1 year, if you're thinking about the CAGR, which is like the compound annual growth rate, it's over 26%. So the question should not be really, should we keep feeding the beast? Is how can we teach the beast to be more accurate, to do what we need it to do for the benefit of mankind? So I'm definitely for feed the beast, but feed it as you teach it good ways of delivering what we need it to do. Because AI is built on a problem. So if it solves problems, it's a great tool to have.
All right. Clifford, do you want to take that?
Yes. So when it comes to a young journalist, a mobile journalist, you said, someone who is not attached to an institution, someone who is doing something as an individual, the barrier to entry right now is much, much lower than it has ever been. Back then, we could rent cameras. I want to record something for my YouTube video. I'll rent and record one day so that I can publish for the whole month. Now you have your phone, you have, you can purchase devices online. I recently had some things delivered home, from the lapel to the audio converter, and then I recorded something, I edited it on my phone, I used that same editor to transcribe, and then I uploaded. 3 hours, done. Created content for the day, fresh. I'll create new content tomorrow without worrying about renting. So as far as affordability goes, it just goes to understanding your setup and understanding the quality of content you want to create and where that content is going to go. If it's YouTube, still the highest quality of content. TikTok, it doesn't even care if your video is shaky, but we would not like to watch shaky videos. So please get a phone or you can get a gimbal, things like that, and all these are affordable, or you can save up to them. They're affordable compared to that huge camera facing me right now. Let me answer that way. Then you asked about AI tools and their affordability as well. So the thing about AI, just like any other software or any other service, they have packages. And they have packages for single user, for group, small company, and then larger companies. Depending on the type of software you're using, let me use Grammarly, that we have seen advertised crazily in our region. You can get a package, an account as low as $12 a month if you're an individual. If you're a company, well, that goes up. And you'll still be able to push out your high quality work. So you'll just find out of including that in your, budget or planning as you create your content and price it. But it's very affordable for the content creator. Then I wanted to respond to something else that you had mentioned. When Francis was talking, you looked at ChatGPT and you looked at Google Analytics. Right now, a lot of the AI technology we're currently discussing is popular, but it's still in its testing phase. It's still collecting data. We're not discussing any of the AI that has collected data and has moved on and has built new models. Google Analytics and Google AdSense have reached the point whereby you and me can get commercial value out of the data collected. So we're sharing. When it comes to ChatGPT, it's still collecting data. Even right now, in its free form, and it's recently announced the paywall, it's still collecting data. Right now, the data sets are very much skewed to the foreign community. We all put content online. It all doesn't end up in ChatGPT. Yeah, so there is still time. I believe, for example, Google's Bard won't finally in our region, because right now it's not in our region. Yeah. When it's finally within our region and we can use it, you will see the difference, given the fact that Google has a larger database of information, and still they'll decide which data to focus on first. So when we reach the point whereby it's commercially viable for all players, including us here in East Africa, ChatGPT is not going to take over anything.
All right. Liza, do you want to respond to a question that Shanita raised? What's the essence of doing journalism as a course anymore if ChatGPT will do the job?
I mean, as a community, we need to be more receptive to change. What's going on now is not, how we do things now is not how we're always going to do things. So just because right now you have to sit down, curate your story from zero to the end of the story and then publish it, does not mean that's how journalism is going to work forever. As we go on, I mean, previously, people were writing their stories down and then taking them and then, you know, using those typewriters and all. But now, we have tools that even edit for us. We have Grammarly, ChatGPT can even write a story for you at this point. It's just not very well fed with local content, but you don't have to now struggle to write a story. As long as you feed an AI tool with the necessary data, it can curate the story for you. All you have to do is brush up your editing skills. AI is a tool. I mean, it's going to write, but it doesn't know about the ethical journalism standards. It might have biases. It also might have some wrong information. So fact-checking as well is up to us. So I'd say journalism is not going to die just because of AI. Journalism is going to stay. It's just going to change. AI is going to change how we do things. It has done that before, and it is going to do it again.
All right, thank you. Because of the time zone difference, I want Stefan to give us his concluding remarks, and maybe Benson too, and then we can remain with the audience in here. So Stefan, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, so you can give us your concluding remarks, and then we'll go to Benson.
Yes, so thank you so much for this really incredible remarks by all the speakers. It has been super interesting. But I really want to tell you that I think it's very early stage to say what's going to happen and what's not going to happen. So I just want to say we do not know if we are losing jobs or not or whatever. I remember the time when Facebook came up, everybody said, this is now bringing peace to the world. And now we have an information ecosystem, we all know. A lot of disinformation, and so it's not that easy. So the same applies to AI. I mean, it will change a lot because it affects all our realms of society. And I'm a little bit hesitant to say now what's going to happen. And I really encourage you to look at the different types of AI, because we are mixing up a little bit sometimes, because we are talking about generative AI, we are talking about algorithm automation. So it's really important for journalists to tell what are you talking about. And especially when I heard the question around trustworthy AI, we are really at the moment, I'm struggling to say we have already this kind of tools. They are to be developed. Mozilla is trying to build trustworthy AI, but I'm really struggling with this idea that there are already tools that are very good done. No, we still have to learn what this technology means for our social life. But thanks for having me, and
all right.
Good luck.
Thank you so much, Stefan, for giving us your time too. Benson, do you want to give us your concluding remarks too?
I want to start by echoing Stefan. We really don't know what the future will hold. This is some of the top AI organizations like OpenAI all saying the same thing. The best we can do right now is build AI that does not do humankind harm. But just like, I don't know, the amount of guns that are available in the US right now, as more people have access, and especially now that the other day someone managed to make an AI do something unethical, and was allowed. I think it's a 22-year-old computer science graduate in the UK. The question will be, do we have enough guardians maybe who will ensure that the AI is not used for malicious purposes? We really don't know, and that's maybe the beauty of it. We might have jobs that are saved. We might have jobs that disappear. But increasingly, I am seeing AI being used as a thing for, brainstorming or making work a little bit more easier. But I honestly don't think it will take over a lot of jobs, no.
All right. Thank you so much, Benson. And also thank you so much for joining us from Nairobi. I'm going to ask for just 3 questions, and then we will also get concluding remarks from our panelists here. So I know that Daniel's one of them. So, okay, please.
ask your question. Good evening, everyone. Mine is to comment on what he said. AI chatbots, ChatGPT or Google, but which is not yet here. They have come here to enhance on what we are doing or improve on our work. But you also have to be with the background knowledge on what you're interacting with the chatbot. I read an article on the Daily Mail. They tested the capabilities of bad AI when it had just reached in the UK. About 7 million people voted for Brexit, but ChatGPT was instead saying it was a bad idea for UK, meaning somehow if you don't know what happened, the AI can be a disadvantage to you. Then AI is not only about chatbots. We have AI around us, all around. And for producers or content creators, this is an opportunity to be even more creative. If you look at AI options like Adobe Podcast and Speech Enhance, you can enhance your speech. Maybe you've got this audio from the field, it is noise and what. You instruct the AI to edit your audio as you're editing the video part, you know. So it is something that has come, but one thing we need to be cautious on what we command these AI chatbots and sites to do for us. Then a question to the regulators. Fine, you want you check content that has been produced, but aren't you going against the copyright rules as regulators? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Daniel, and then we'll come back to him.
Guys, so really interesting. I am humbled to be amidst your presence. I mean, in the entire room, I'm the AI expert here, right? And so when the lawyer was saying they have the last word, I was like, yeah. Because there's a big part of law that now is being carried out by AI systems. If you've heard of a system called Campus, used in Baltimore to dispense judgment and the like. I wanted to just speak very succinctly, right? To the content creators, you are the custodians for telling our stories. Okay, so if you focus on stories that are only piquing the frenzy of the people, it means there's a big side that you won't tell. To the regulator, I think he really touched on it. For the regulators, we are struggling with things to do with fairness, accountability, transparency, and ethics, even of the AI itself from the development. How about the application side? And so this is a conversation we really, really look forward to being a part of and seeing how we can contribute. So that you're not unfair, especially to the people that are in the socioeconomics trying to improve. To the people on the business side who really make the business, makes impact and drives. Again, I understand that there's tensions between for-profit and social responsibility. And this is a very critical balance, because the moment you're using tools like your innovations manager mentioned, the moment you're using AI tools, you're doing things at scale, because now you're able to zero in and have personalization, right? This just means that you can exacerbate unfair outcomes for people or unfair stories. So just being conscious and having some contribution from people that are really exposed about the dangers of the technology, or being able to evaluate, are we using is it the right one, or does it make sense culturally? I think that's big. There's a big conversation, like you mentioned, on like intellectual properties that are local. I'm very, very fond of having a bit of my time in ethnographic conservation of intangible heritage. It's a big conversation on that. But also on the business side, if there is deliberate effort to promote content locally that has those intellectual properties that are incorporated there for local consumption and local value, you're really creating a completely different set of things. Let me sum up the conversation from our side as AI people on the side of both the technology, the development. There are serious dangers. By the time there is, Elon Musk is batching around with many technologists and saying, look, can we put a stop for 6 months? Okay? There are serious issues, okay? Even on the AI itself. But this is not the conversation we're having here, okay? Because we have been underserved and also segregated from contributing to the data. The conversation we should be having here, okay, is finding those local use cases, keeping that balance of stories told, stories untold, where business makes sense, where, and also promoting where the business doesn't make sense, but there is the social responsibility. Keeping a balance there, I think it's something that I'm looking forward to, and I'm happy to contribute in any way. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Just one last one from you, and then we'll wrap this up.
I'm Kevin Kasomo, and basically he summed it up because my conversation is basically around the dangers of this growing AI, that when we interact with AI, you're inputting data, which data is stored in a database, and which database can be probably accessed by people who have wrong intentions or something like that. Right now, my concept about the future of AI just changed of recent when I learned about Chaos GPT. That there are actually people creating AI that has continuous mode. Like you don't need to come back and edit stuff. Like it can literally just, they talked about feeding the monster. Now the monster can actually feed itself. And the scary bit of it is if it can actually access these other AI models, the ChatGPT models, the algorithm models, then like what next? Because we're putting in this information, yes. ChatGPT will tell you it has a database of over 50 billion words or something like that because it has a lot of people using it and like everything. But now if this person has created a model that can access all these other models and have all these onto their database, and it doesn't need someone to come back and edit, it can rebuild itself, it's in continuous mode, then it actually scares me about the future of AI in itself. But she mentioned something that gave me some hope, at least for now.
All right, thank you so much. So I'm going to come back to our panelists to wrap this up. Maybe I'll start with you, Clifford, and then we'll wrap it up with Liza.
Okay, as the discussion was a 50-50 point, whereby there is a lot of human involvement and there's a lot of, there is just as much human involvement as there is AI, where we are guiding it. And the reason is it's not customized or localized. There's not enough data to assist us. We can't have it fully automate systems, given one or two reasons. And that's understandable. It's where we are now. We can decide to work towards building AI for us. We can decide to do that. We can decide to see how best we can use AI on scale. It's a continuous journey, the same way it's been since we were introduced to any assistant or productivity tool a couple of years back. So while we move towards the future, we have to hold fast to our standards, our understanding of how the job should be done and what's right in our lines of work. With that, we cannot go wrong. Chaos GPT is scary. I was reading about it as well. And
like Francis mentioned earlier on, tools have been there all this time. Many years ago when we were starting our journey in the industry, not journalism but technology, we had cron tabs, Cron tabs were used to run backups in the middle of the night, okay? These were much more like what you guys are calling AIs today, but these things would do, you just instruct it once, it learns your instruction, and it will do what you want over the next so many years as long as you don't disrupt it. So today, it's just that many things have gone now software, because much of what you're saying here is software driven. Back in the time, we also had embedded devices. The embedded device, you embed software instructions into a device and it will do something the way you want it to do. And it performs that particular role for a long time, or you can even expand its role if you want it to. Okay? So these things will continuously come, but human beings have learned how to metamorphosize. At one point, we used to just walk. walk, walk. Bicycles came, started riding, vehicles came, but we adapted and found a way. There were typewriters at one point. We had typists, a full-time typist, can you imagine? Damn. Now, computers came, everyone is a typist of their own, humans have adapted. So along the way, people will learn and they will understand how to coexist. I'm going to mention one thing. I like what Silva said to Paul. I'm going to bring my perspective. I've had the privilege of working in about 3 media houses in this country, and the regulators are always very interested in how you cook the food, actually. You say how you cook the food. What's in the kitchen? UCC will come and ask you, do you have a delay machine? Do you have a cough machine in your radio studio? We don't want guests coming and coughing with their rockets here and there. So it's actually important that at least there is a framework paper put out by UCC on how these things are done. Because if you're interested in how my audio and visual goes out, you must be interested in how I'm producing texture for them who do all the old thing they produce on newspapers. And him who is producing on a website. You must have some interest in how that content is cooked. Thank you.
All right. Paul, I continue to remind you that Silva and I are available as consultants to draft this paper. 1 hour on ChatGPT, it will be ready.
Thank you very much. I think they are right, because there are 2 aspects. There is the engineering aspect of communication, and there is the content. So the engineering will want to know whether, for example, you have the pre-listening device, because it helps you to filter an inappropriate content. So I can say that is the kitchen. They will want to know whether you have recording facilities, because they all requires you to keep a record of what you record. But when it comes to content, what the public sees, because the public is not interested whether you have a modern studio, whether you have AI. When you put pornography on air, whatever you had there, it now becomes irrelevant. That is the content aspect I was talking about, that we are interested in a content regulation. We look at if the content is bad, we can't say that the technology was very good, the studio was sophisticated, the content is bad, the content is bad. So I think that one is clear. Then there's somebody commented about, it was related to the lawyers about copyright. That when we go for content, are we not infringing on copyright? No. The standards say that all broadcasts must conform to the existing law. So the copyright law must be observed and strictly. And it is a pity that most of the content does not abide by the copyright law, and we are coming out strongly to enforce that. I think I can.
Paul, we conform to copyright, Paul. I visit you once every week to verify these things. Yes, Liza.
Thank you. I believe we've had a very insightful conversation. I love that we have looked at both the pros and the cons that AI has on journalism. I'm very pro-technology, so I'm very excited to see where working with AI is going to take us as an industry. I mean, look at Google's Bard that is coming up. Google Bard is going to be writing, and we are writing as well. We are publishing our content on their platform. Who knows, are they going to, is bad content going to be optimized over our own content? That's something that I'm looking forward to seeing, and how we can work with bad on our content that we are putting up. So yeah, AI is a very exciting thing to work with. There are a little threats, but I think we can handle.
All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please clap for my panelists. They've done an interesting job. I wanted to end with an interesting story. So last night at about 7, I was leaving the newsroom, heading somewhere, and I received a phone call from someone far away from these lands, and they gave me a very important tip. I passed the tip on to a reporter and asked them to write me a story, and I normally know the turnaround time of this reporter, but this turnaround time was too fast, really fast. So I read through the story and I was like, I know what you've done. I really know what you've done. But the thing that I learned from that is that for young reporters, please don't worry. Journalism is built on access, your ability to access a story and tell it. ChatGPT might improve the language, it might improve your research capacities, it might improve the structure of sentences, but nothing will ever take away the fact that it's the phone call from Milan that says Keith has passed on. Nothing will take away that. That's journalism, 411. And nothing will ever take away the fact that it's you to curate the content after Keith's death and say he was an economic powerhouse, he was the permanent secretary, secretary of the Treasury. You've got to talk to all these other people who've spoken with him before and get their angles and put them in. So that's really what journalism is about. And I think the only thing that you should worry about, I really don't worry about technology. It will always regulate itself. The thing you should worry about is underrepresented communities, and that's the beauty. For where technology goes, we've seen this at the Nation Media Group. All our award-winning journalists, the stories that have won them awards are not stories that were clicked on by viewers. So we've always found that award-winning journalism isn't really appreciated in its time when it comes out. It's later on when guys see the award and they're like, this is actually very great journalism. And it appreciates over time. Over time, that journalism becomes evergreen. So please don't worry. Again, I will comfort you both as an employer and a journalist. We still hire journalists, but there are things which will have to change about the way we do journalism, and young journalists have to be alive to that. 64 years back when the Nation Media started, they were employing about 17 typists. We don't employ a typist anymore because we require that every journalist can type their own story. So maybe with time, there are some aspects of journalism that we're going to ask of reporters coming to the newsroom. So please don't worry. The time is going to, the time is going, I'm going to hand back to Tracy so that power has handed back to Tracy, and then she can give you the microphone. So Tracy, thank you so much for giving us the time. And I've left you with some 10 minutes to spare. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. A huge round of applause for Mr. Raymond Mujuni and our panelists, as well as our virtual panelists. Thank you so much for being part of this great conversation. Now, of course, I think our fears have been, how do you feel, young journalists? How do we feel? Secure? Well, 50-50. But you see, the power is that AI in itself was developed by a human. I don't think it created itself. You still have creative control. You could also develop some as journalists to counter the ones that have been developed without you in mind. You know, that's something to think about. Yesterday, I was going through social media, and this came out, and it was Universal Music asks streaming services to block AI companies from accessing their songs. That's the battle. So musicians at some place are also like, you know what? No, that's our music. If I'm Beyonce, I'm Beyonce. Rihanna doesn't have to sing my song without my permission. You have this content. You can produce this content and then decide how you apply AI, I think. At this point. But it has been an amazing, amazing conversation, and I hope you drew insights from what our panelists and speakers shared. Thank you so much. Those were great insights. However, this, like I said, is the 4th edition and the climax of the first season of the Media Viability Talks. It is then, however, important that we look back on the journey of Media Viability Talks. Ladies and gentlemen, this highlight video will put that in perspective. We're ready?
Every society is as good as the information it consumes, which brings in the aspect of media, along with the personalities that boss that space. And today we're going to have conversations with the people that do just that.
I will be the last to fall. If you look at the content space, each and every person is becoming a content creator in one way or another. Some are not even influencers, some are mega influencers. So
I was sitting recently in one of those professional associations for media houses, and one of the issues that kept coming up was social media against us, the streamers, everything. And I remember thinking to myself, this is such a ridiculous way to look at things. You are so stuck in the way you are doing things, you're not willing to understand the new systems and how you can benefit from them.
If we ask, we've had so many conversations in this room, and we've been exposed to so many networks in this very room. I hope you picked something from the first season. We hope to come back bigger and better. But for now, to give us our closing remarks, please don't go. There is a lot of networking going to happen, some drinks and food later. But before we go into that, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back Miss Patricia Maganda to give us the closing remarks. There we go. If you haven't met Patricia, you've met her email.
Oh, wow. That was funny. Very good evening to you all. I think we are all now feeling energetic with the knowledge we've gained from here. I think I even have more energy. So thank you so much. Let's give a big round of applause to our panelists and speakers for today. Also clap for yourselves for really participating in the discussion meaningfully. And then a big hand clap for our production team. Let's clap for the moderator, everyone. Raymond. And this goes to our virtual speakers. Let's really clap for them and our online audience. Let's clap for Tracy, everyone. The band. And finally, clap for yourselves. So that was it for today. I hope that you get some time to look out for the highlight video of the previous episodes of the Media Viability Talks that have been here. This doesn't leave us here today. It gives us more context to go back and do more of AI. Anytime it can ambush you in the middle. New technology. I think it's a soundtrack to my speech, so it's okay. I think they want to give us a cooler, and then I'll really sum it up. Take it on.
So it has been an amazing conversation, and I know some might want to leave. But we really look forward to having more of these conversations, and AI, from AI to digital economy. Those are some of the conversations we've had, but we hope it gets better. It's media viability. We need sustainability in our newsrooms. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been amazing from me, Patricia, the Media Challenge Initiative team. They said I said something about production. To the guys at the back, a huge round of applause. It's been an honor. Thank you very much. Patricia, a big round of applause.
Okay, I think I have to close so that the band takes it on as we do our networking in the interest of time. So for me, my takeaway as we leave this place today is it's a food for thought for everyone. While we sit back and look at AI and how it's going to affect us as journalists and people in the media industry and the various fields, let's really think about the people who are down there in Koboko, that one farmer out there who doesn't really have a radio at home, they don't have a TV, and they really don't know what's happening. I think our role as journalists is really to be the bridge between AI and our communities, because then that's one of the key reasons why we exist, because we want to create solutions for our communities. So I think while we need to change the African narrative, we need to be able to just think a little bit more about AI and the community and how we harness the new technology, and I think it will all work out. To conclude, it's really been an honor having you here today as Media Challenge Initiative, together with our partners. We are really grateful. Let's keep the conversations going. Let's keep the energy. And we hope to have you here for more and more discussions. Look out for MV Talks Season 2. We'll be giving you the highlights. You can check out for the live stream today on our YouTube channel. Otherwise, on behalf of MCI and the partners, thank you so much for coming, and let's have a great evening. Let's network. Please don't leave. We'll have some cocktail. Please don't leave. Otherwise,
yes, Tracy,
have a good evening, and let's have the band take it on.
Ready and excited to start.
Feel free to pick cocktail as you network and enjoy the band.